The proles. If there was hope, it must lie in the proles. Because only there, in those swarming disregarded masses, 85% of the population of Oceania, could the force to destroy the party ever be generated. The party could not be overthrown from within. Its enemies, if they had any enemies, had no way of coming together or even of identifying one another. Even if the legendary brotherhood existed, as just possibly it might, it was inconceivable that its members would ever assemble in larger numbers than 2s and 3s. Rebellion meant and to look in the eyes, an inflection of the voice, at the most an occasional whispered word. But the proles, if only they could somehow become conscious of their own strength, would have no need to conspire. They needed only to rise up and shake themselves like a horse shaking off flies. If they chose, they could blow the party to pieces tomorrow morning. Surely sooner or later it must occur to them to do it. And yet he remembered how once he had been walking down a crowded street with a tremendous shout of hundreds of voices. Women's voices had burst from the side street a little way ahead. It was a great formidable cry of anger and despair, deep, loud, oh, 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 that went humming on like the reverberation of a bell. His heart had leapt. It started, he had thought, a riot. The proles were breaking loose at last. When he had reached the spot, it was to see a mob of 200 or 300 women crowding around the stalls of a street market, with faces as tragic as those that had been the doomed passengers on a sinking ship. But at this moment, the general despair broke down into a multitude of individual quarrels. It appeared that one of the stalls had been selling tin saucepans. They were wretched, flimsy things, but cooking pots of any kind were always difficult to get. Now the supply had unexpectedly given out. The successful women, bumped and jostled by the rest, were trying to make off with their saucepans, while dozens of others clamored around the stall, accusing the stallkeeper of favoritism and of having more saucepans somewhere in reserve. There was a fresh outburst of yells. 2 bloated women, one of them with her hair coming down, had got hold of the same saucepan. They were trying to tear it out of one another's hands. For a moment, they were both tugging, and then the handle came off. Winston watched them disgustingly, and yet just for a moment, what almost frightening power had sounded in that cry from only a few hundred throats. Why was it they could never shout like that about anything that mattered? Until they become conscious, they will never rebel, and until after they have rebelled, they cannot become conscious.